year is really talking about what did you do looking in the past, again to which Kameshwari alluded to. It's not really forward looking, and it's certainly not career focused. So what is the solution then? What we have tried to do is have really a journey where people are given feedback many more times in the year, and there isn't much room for a surprise at the end of the year. And how can you as L&D professionals do that? First is help articulate a reason for change, a case for change, where really you need to leverage your ability to influence key stakeholders in your firm and make them really understand the opportunity, because if your firm or my firm or our firms collectively don't make that change, then somewhere we may not emerge as the best employer. I think the second opportunity is that it is not a process change. It is really a change in mindset and a change in the culture of the firm. And that is the biggest challenge that we all have as L&D professionals. How do we break the mold in people's thinking and move on to continuous feedback? Senior leadership commitment and leadership tone will set the pace. Building line manager capability, because it isn't easy. Sitting down and having a conversation over coffee, initial times is quite awkward because it is not very structured. It doesn't have that concrete a set of numbers, and it is really a check-in, as Kameshwari mentioned. Also, there is an opportunity to reinforce the change and do it again and again, because it doesn't happen very correctly the first time. I think somewhere people also feel seeking feedback, and we are dealing with firms with different demographics and age groups. So a lot of people may feel seeking feedback has a negative sort of a consequence around it, which is not the reality. Seeking feedback is really, and it's an act where two people sit down and have a conversation. And I think once we have been able to achieve that as L&D professionals, the next opportunity is, now that we are seeing feedback go in a particular way, can we course correct it, and can we use those conversations to really look at some macro trends to see what do we need to do differently in the firm to bring people up to a particular standard, or fill in any gaps that are emerging through the journey of continuous feedback. So really, what did we do at HSBC? First of all, we stopped the mid-year appraisal. Number two, we stopped the annual appraisal exercise in such a way that during the year, there was no ability to go to the system. We then, of course, built a business case with our senior leadership, and interestingly used a drama company, a theater company, and got them to work with our entire line managers, which is about 450 odd people across just the bank of HSBC. And we used theater in 3 scenarios: a good conversation, a bad conversation, and how to go about having a periodic conversation. And I thought that these small street plays and skits really broke the monotony and the formality around this difficult, dry, not easy to deal with subject. And we thought that we had killed it, and now people will start having open conversations. But that didn't happen. We then tried to give them some toolkits, which I will share. I have some at the end of the presentation. And we then thought again that we've explained to people how to go about it and it'll get done. Didn't really happen. Then finally, we tried to really give people a set of questions to ask around continuous feedback, and which really clicked for us, where we gave people.
You should just show this.
Okay. So it's some sort of a toolkit.
And these are important. So.
These are some collaterals. So I think essentially what we didn't realize, that people felt it awkward to come up with the questions that they needed to ask after saying, how was your weekend? Or whatever. And we came up difficult questions like, how are you progressing against objectives or goals, to key challenges that you're facing in your current role, how do you think we can do things differently, and all logical stuff that you would think that a line manager would generally, be able to articulate and deal with. But I think it was a bit awkward. So what we realized was, once we gave people the tools, and we gave this to the whole organization. So all 4,000 people knew what to expect and how to deal with it. It's only now that we feel, at the end of our first year, we are slowly getting into a set of conversations where people are able to go to a Starbucks or sit in a more formal setting and just have a conversation apart from food, weather, relative, etc. And we are hoping at the end of this year's appraisal cycle, we have fewer surprises, and more importantly, fewer unpleasant surprises. I think as an L&D function, what we've also learned is perhaps there's a need to build capability in approaching performance and dealing with a relatively difficult conversation which everybody feels that they're a guru at, or they're really superb at. We've also had some good feedback about learning needs in the coming year, which we are going to try and tackle. So I just leave it by saying it's a great opportunity. If, as L&D professionals, we can influence our senior management, that's a good start. It isn't an easy journey because it has many awkward moments, and it needs strong reinforcement from tools. With that, I am going to hand it over to Hema, who's at another level in this journey in our firm.
Thanks so much, Vikram. Wonderful insights. I'm sure it's going to be mobbed after this session by quite a few of you with questions. I'm definitely going to do that. So as I mentioned, kind of the maturity is different. If you look at the three organizations seated on this table, where are we with respect to continuous feedback? Definitely we're at different levels. I would like to go back to the poll questions for a moment. So first question, when we said how many organizations have continuous feedback, almost 65% of you said you do. So if I have to pose another question saying, how many of you actually think it's working really well? Show of hands. Perfect. Okay, so that says the story. 65% people say that we have a continuous feedback mechanism and a process, but very few of us believe that it's actually working for us. So going back to what Vikram was telling, the process and tool bit of it is an easy thing to do. We need to put a process for continuous feedback. We need to do away with our appraisal, regular midterm and year-end appraisal process. Bring in an innovation to that is an easy piece to do. What is more difficult, what we also saw in the second poll question, is that it's about training managers. And it's a group of L&D professionals sitting here. And all of us would agree that when it comes to some of the softer skills, it's not going to be that very easy. So one of my recent experiences, I'm not just a manager who has been trained. I'm supposed to be training others on giving feedback. I had a performance difficulty with one of my team members. I called her and I thought I was being very, very clear in what I was saying. I told her, see, all of this, 1, 2, 3, 4 things, these are your strengths. This is something which needs to get better. 3 months, let's watch. You're on watch for 3 months, end of 3 months, let's see what happens. I thought I was being crystal clear in my communication. Months down the line, I call her and I have another conversation. She says, no, I don't think you said that. You said I need to get a little better. I never realized I was on watch. I was taken aback. If I can do this, imagine others. And I don't think she was lying. So having a difficult conversation is not an easy thing. So some of my perspectives here is that we're all very good at cascading when it comes to some of these processes. There's a new process launch. Let's cover all our employees in very quick speed. How to give feedback, how to listen, all of that happens. But I think this is one area wherein we really need to innovate a bit with respect to how we are training people. Can we look at building skills outside the classroom? And I'm not talking about e-courses here. Can we create role models, kind of within the ecosystem? Who are some managers who are doing it really well? How can we project them? How can they peer coach? So that's one approach which I can think of, which we have also used in the past. And another perspective that I want to bring in here is that let's not, kind of look at giving feedback in isolation. As a people leader, what are some capabilities that a leader needs? Can we, kind of bring in a holistic perspective to building capabilities? It's not just about managing performance for the year, which is, in a way, a short-term approach. Can I build people's careers? In fact, we heard Yash talk about it this morning. As a manager, my relationship, my transactional relationship with this person can be limited, let's say, to the next 2 to 3 years. But can I, in a way, take emotional responsibility, accountability for this person's career? When I'm going to bring in that perspective, the relationship dynamics change a lot. The way the person is going to look at me is going to be very different, and receptivity for feedback is going to be a lot better. The second aspect, in fact, in the second poll question, that was a topmost challenge which most of you highlighted. It's about changing mindsets. It's a cultural factor. Because when we are talking about continuous feedback, we're not just trying to build a new behavior, it's a culture change. And culture change, as always, is very, very difficult. And two fundamentals in my mind which can facilitate in any culture change. One, do we have leadership buy-in? Are leaders leading by example? Are they giving time for it? Because one question that I've often faced when I've trained people and any of these things is that you're telling me to give feedback to my teams, but I never get feedback from my manager. Who is going to train my manager? Okay? So it's about role modeling. It's about trend setting. It's about leaders sponsoring and living it. Plus also, are we creating the larger ecosystem which will facilitate that? These are two things, kind of that we really need to look at. And to share a little about the Cipla story, Cipla's organization that I represent. 8-year-old, 8-decade-old organization, well-known pharma company. So when we, why did we start thinking about continuous feedback? Suddenly, it was not sudden, actually. So when we completed 8 years, the management, wanted to take a pause and pose certain questions, saying, yes, we've been very successful over the last 8 decades, but how can we remain relevant for the next 80 years and more? The environment around is changing drastically. What are some things that we should start doing differently? So a couple of things got identified. One definitely, as you would guess, is around the people and culture factor. And there again, we kind of articulated a few themes or essentials. For instance, we spoke about what we call as first principles. By first principles, we mean some fundamentals like vision, mission, values, and culture. We relooked and re-articulated some of it. One of the themes that we articulated was also about building Cipla as a communicating and listening organization. Not that we were not doing that before, but the dynamics, not just the external dynamics, internal dynamics had changed drastically. We had made a major acquisition in the US just before that. We were growing globally. A lot of our workforce, younger generation, was infused in the system. Even today, if you look at, we have 24,000 strong workforce. Almost 40% of our people have spent less than 3 years in the organization. So looking at those dynamics is where we felt that the way we communicate, way we reach out should be a little different. And how do we reach out to the last employee on the ground? So we did multiple things, but I would like to highlight 2 things. These things per se are not innovations. The first is about an org-wide employee engagement survey. Most organizations do it, okay? But the difference was that we were very quick to act on certain feedback. Policy changes happened. We introduced a sabbatical leave, which many organizations have. We cut down the number of working Saturdays to 2 days in the field, which was one of the first of its kind in this industry. So the message that the management, that the top leadership was giving to the organization was that we are listening, we are being serious about it. Your feedback matters. The second thing that we did was a town hall, again, not an innovation, but it was a rigor and the focus with which it got implemented. Quarter after quarter, we had the management council along with the vice chairman come together. connect virtually with a global organization, share about what is happening, as well as listen to their feedback and questions. Did it start well? Not really. First time we had just 8 questions coming up. So as it went on, it picked up momentum because people realized that this is not one-off thing, this is not just a show-off thing. They actually mean it. So after having done all of it, when the ecosystem and the environment for listening was set, top leaders started listening. Top leaders started seeking feedback. Is when recently we have revamped a performance management system wherein continuous feedback is an essential part. We still haven't done away with our rating system and, kind of our bell curve still exists, okay? However, I'm sure with this, there's not going to be any last-minute surprise like what Vikram was telling. At least the percentage of it would come down drastically. Or there cannot be a blame game because consistently I'm telling you what is happening. So end of the year, I cannot come and tell you, I gave you a good rating, but HR did something, okay? So we are, kind of hopeful that, the reason why I'm saying I'm hopeful is that the way things have happened in the last 18 months. When we started with the town halls, when we started with the survey, the way we implemented changes post that is what gives me the confidence that, yes, kind of continuous feedback is going to, kind of become in some way a way of life. There would be challenges. That's where I would also turn to Vikram to learn a little more about it. So that's in short Cipla's journey, and back to you, Kameshwari.
Thanks, Hema and Vikram. This topic is something that actually, there's a lot to learn and a lot to share. I'm going to try and summarize what Hema and Vikram shared. I'll also add a little bit of our own journey at Sapient. Sapient been longest, I guess, in this journey on continuous feedback. We introduced that in 2014, and I was just telling them that we just finished our 3rd cycle of performance appraisal and rewards and everything just like a week or 10 days ago. So let me try and summarize a little bit before we go to questions. I'm hoping we have a few minutes for questions. There are, sort of, as I think about the work of the L&D professional, right, and just from what was shared, it's about enabling your leaders and managers, right? And whether you do it through influence, whether you do it through training, whether you do it through talking about the culture and bringing about change in the culture, I think it's a lot to do with how you actually enable mindsets, enable skills for leaders, managers in the organization to bring about this change. Because if you don't do that, then the rest of the journey is going to be far more difficult, right? So that's one. And the second big job as an L&D professional is actually creating the environment. So if you just tell people, go have conversations, what are they going to do? So, you got some ideas from what Vikram shared, and all organizations, I know we did, we have a Let's Talk campaign. I mean, and we're running the campaign for 3 years. The percentage of documented feedback at the end of that Let's Talk, because the minute you say it's Let's Talk, it becomes very informal. Then why do I need to document it, right? So that's the next part of that journey, Vikram, which you probably have to think about. But it's like, how do you document that? So it's creating that environment for people to actually have the conversation, have the right conversation, know how they can, what questions to ask, what should be shared, how to actually go about the whole process. What's the governance around it? I mean, when you introduce it, everyone's very nice. Yeah, okay, we'll do ongoing feedback. But really, if I didn't have time for doing one conversation at the end of the year, where am I going to get time to do 12 conversations, for example, right? So there's a lot of process and governance that L&D team needs to be thinking about as well. So that's from a work perspective, right? But then the second part of this equation is, how does L&D do it, right? I think L&D needs to be super agile and iterative. Don't wait for all the answers. Take some lessons from what Hema shared. Introduce, keep iterating, keep changing, keep moving forward, because that's the only way that you will learn and what works in your context and what in your organizations. Be innovative and creative. Right? You can see that worked at HSBC. We had desk cards. We have a mobile app. We have, pop-ups that keep coming. There are many, many things that you need to do. You have to experiment. We have Twitter, I don't know, what do you call it? Twitter competitions. We have Facebook something or the other. We have a lot of things. So whatever works in your organization, right? Be innovative and creative about how you introduce this in the organization. And last but not the least, reinforce, right, through recognition. Because it's important to acknowledge what's working and who it's working with. Acknowledge and recognize the managers who are doing it well. So we introduced a Great Manager Award. And while that's not a big deal, but it's a very big deal in this scenario, right? So think about those kinds of things as L&D that you may want to do as you sort of either start or continue on this journey of continuous feedback, all right? With that, maybe we have time for a couple of questions. 2 questions, maybe? All right. That's like really hard to read. How can we separate it by geographical distance and managers find it difficult? Similarly, feedback. How do we change impression? How do we link rewards to continuous performance transfer? Do you want to pick any of those or?
Yeah, so where is Ishita? Okay, Ishita, so our response is that it's akin to how will I find the time to have so many conversations when one appraisal itself is very difficult. But I suppose, I think when you break it into let's talk, as she said, or make it more informal, people find the time. And today, communication is certainly not a problem. So I think these are the standard objections that you would deal with, and you need to have really reinforcement around making this happen. So I don't know if I fully answered your question, but
use all the social tools.
Just need to get around it.
Yeah, if a lot of your population is millennials, you don't really need to tell them how and when to talk, right? Encourage individuals to actually start the conversation. It's not necessarily always manager-led. That's another movement we started. We pushed individuals saying, it's your growth, right? We're talking about your growth. We're not talking about your past performance. So, if you're interested, start the conversation with your manager. So that's a lot of what we did.
And Ishita, we have this toolkit for you. You can pick it up as you go out.
Yeah, Vikram has, some of these. So let's see how many people we can give that out to.
Can I pick the second one,
Sure.
Rameshwari? So I like the second one very much, wherein it's you, okay. Feedback as a word has a very negative connotation to it because it's only about what didn't go well, how do we change? So 2 ways of looking at it. One, maybe we can give it another name. Don't call it a feedback, call it a conversation or a dialogue. But end of the day, semantics matter very little. To me, it is about really bringing in the change, there are a lot of rules and things which experts say, it has to be 2:1, talk about 2 positive things and 1 negative thing, start with a positive and all of that. Can we implement even one of it on a rigorous, continuous basis? Because I think only when people, it's not about changing the word, you can call it a conversation, still if the conversation is going to revolve around negatives, that's also going to mean something else. So can we, build, some ambassadors within the organization who bring in that change? You can have a feedback session, but there's not a single negative which is pointed out. It's about appreciation. It's about highlighting what went well. It's about highlighting strengths. I think when you change the way it happens is where the meaning of the word will change.
And I think when you're giving feedback very often, then beyond a point, you can't keep on giving negative feedback. People deserve appreciation and they seek it, and it happens. I can say that out of the experience that we've had.
We just stopped calling it feedback. We call it feed forward. And that's a little bit toward the semantics that Hema talked about. Maybe this third question, which is how often should feedback be given? Actually, there is no limit to how often, right? Feedback can be given as many times, or you can have the conversation as many times. But as an organization, I talked about governance. We have recommended that at least 4 conversations should be documented, which means, it's imperative for people to have 1 conversation a quarter at the very minimum, which needs to be documented. Now, then we suggest to people that, have ongoing conversations, which is at least once a month. So that's just what we have been saying to our people, but I guess it's up to folks. Actually, we are, I've been shown the 0, but I'm sure Vikram wants to give some more of these out.
Yeah, so I'll just take the last question. Priyanka, where's Priyanka? Okay, so I would say that, that it's a major cultural transformation. I don't think it's easy to make it happen. It's like making a building, you put scaffolding around it. So I think the key driver of cultural change is have clear clarity of what is it that you want to achieve, and then leverage senior management. If I have to pick up any one thing, then it would be really leverage senior management to have a belief and share it with people. Of course, giving people toolkits and other stuff also helps. But even for us in this 1 year, we've had many hiccups and hasn't gone as per plan. But we're getting better at it. She's had it for 3 years plus. So, it isn't easy. But that's where L&D skills come in most to make people understand. And you can collect your thing from here.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Vikram and Hema, for a good conversation. Hopefully, people took away some tips that they can go back and implement in their respective organizations. So, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much to our panel.